guys, how are you? Welcome back to Pay Down Debt Solutions. My name is Jen, and on this channel, we teach new strategies and new solutions for you to get you out of debt. We teach a style of banking called velocity banking. Today, I want to go over some things with you. Mainly, I want to go over the fact that you don't need a debt consolidation loan to get you out of debt. That is not something that you need when you learn to use special tools, special things we call debt destroyers, and using them to pay down your debt much faster than you ever would with a consolidation loan. We don't teach loans on this channel at all. Loans, we think, are a four-letter word. We teach using lines of credit instead to get you out of debt. You're here today because you think that you're in too much debt, whether it is strangling you or you just want to get out of debt faster, find a different way, find a new solution to move on to wealth building. And why wouldn't you? We all do. So I want to ask you guys a couple questions. And those questions would be, number one, where are you at? Number two, where do you want to be? And number three, what is getting in your way? Okay, so where are you at? Number one, where are you at with your wealth or your debt? If you're in a place that you do not want to be, then you need to find a new strategy. Okay, so what is the definition of insanity? That is doing the same thing over and over and over again, expecting different results, correct? So we don't teach insanity here. We teach how to be sane and how to use the tools that you already have to get yourself out of debt. So number two, where do you want to be? Okay, we already figured out where you're at. Number two is, where do you want to be? Well, most of you want to be debt-free, right? You want to be debt-free and on to wealth building. And again, part of that is going to be learning a new strategy, because if you continue to do things the way you're currently doing them, it is going to take you a long time to get out of debt. So where do you see yourself in the next 5 years? I can guarantee that we can get you there if you learn a new way of thinking, a new way of banking using lines of credit, okay? And what is getting in your way, all right? So some of the things that we teach with our pay down strategy are the three-step system, okay, that we have. The three-step system, the three-step strategy, which is number one, to organize, number two, to identify, and number three, to implement, okay? So what is getting in your way? You are going to learn that when you get down to the three steps. You're going to figure out what's getting in your way, okay? And so a lot of you think you're not making enough income, and that is not always the case, all right? That is not always the case. A lot of you think you have a lot of payments and you're just payment poor and payment strapped. Well, that's true, but that's true because you don't have any cash flow, another problem that we can solve, all right? So we are going to get into it today. We're going to talk about why you do not need a debt consolidation loan. Remember, loans are a four-letter word. We do not use those. We use lines of credit instead, okay? So you don't need those debt consolidation loans. What you do need is a new strategy, all right? So a new strategy that we call the pay down method, which is velocity banking. And we may have the answer to your banking and payment problem, again, using velocity banking, using lines of credit. So the benefits of pay down are, number one, you probably already have one of the tools that we use to work down debt, which is a credit card or a line of credit of some sort. Number two, it doesn't usually cost you any more money, okay? Now, could it cost you some to get a different line of credit? Well, that could be the case, yes, depending on the line of credit that you get. Sometimes when you go to banks, they are going to charge you to give you a line of credit, but it's not going to be nearly as much as it would cost you to continue working the traditional system and trying to get yourself out of debt. Maybe 125 bucks, you know, if it's a home equity line of credit in the first lien position, maybe as much as 4,000. But again, that's a totally different animal than we're really talking today. We're just talking about debt consolidation and getting yourself out of debt and using the tools that you already have. Three, it saves you from making more payments, okay? So we're not asking you to take on another payment. We're not asking you to take on, you know, any kind of debt consolidation, you know, any of those predatory companies out there that charge you up to 20 to 25% to help you manage your money and help you negotiate these debts. You guys, if you're in that position and you can't work down debt yourself, you can negotiate your own debts. Don't pay somebody to do it, okay? All they're going to do is take your money and they're going to manage it for you. You still have to come up with the cash to pay down those debts that you owe anyway. It's not like they're going to, you know, give you a loan to then work down these debts. Okay, that's really not how it works when it comes to those debt repayment plans. So you don't need a loan. What you need is a line of credit. Why do I say that? Because again, my name is Jen, and I come to you as a business owner. My husband is a business owner. We have also been in corporate America for many years. I used to be a banker and a branch manager, so I understand these banking tools well. But what I didn't understand is what I know today, and that is the velocity banking strategy, a strategy that gets you out of your debts much quicker than you could ever imagine, honestly. It is such a phenomenal tool when run correctly. And so Dan and I came up with a 3-step system, the pay down strategy to help get you out of debt. We know, we've been there, you guys. We don't talk from inexperience. We talk from experience because we've been there, and we're still to this day working down our own strategy. But you know what? Dan and I just got back from a vacation. We took our family up north to the UP in Michigan. We did some really cool things. We didn't stress about money for 1 second because we learned a new way of banking. And I implore you guys, if you have ever been to the UP, I would love you to go to Michigan Dog. It is the coolest place you will ever go. She teaches all about sled dogs, all about the Alaskan Huskies that she used to go on. She went on the Iditarod and the Yukon Quest. Unbelievable. She's an amazing instructor. She teaches this, and you guys get to go there and cuddle puppies. Really cool. That is my plug for her because I just really enjoyed it. So if you guys ever make it to the Upper Peninsula, go do that. She's somewhere, I think, north of Newberry. Anyway, sorry, little side tangent there. But anyway, we don't worry anymore about our debts, okay? We don't worry anymore about that because we learned how to handle them appropriately, a way that you guys are not doing probably currently because you don't know it. I didn't know it as a banker. I didn't know it as branch manager. Not very many people teach this. You will find it on some YouTube channels. There are many channels out there that teach it for free, just like we do today. However, if you want help learning that strategy, you can email us and we can come up with a coaching plan for you based on your numbers, okay? But let's get into what leads us, okay, to the 3-step strategy for pay down. So Dan and I learned how to do velocity banking. We learned a new system, and we came up with 3 steps for you to make it ultra simple. As you learn anything, it can be overwhelming, right? And I get that. And that's why we have over 100 videos for you guys to try to learn from. But if you need that extra help, you can always get that. We have a Facebook group that you can join. You guys can ask questions. You can email us and ask questions, and we will do our best to answer for you. But we have simplified it into our 3-step system, okay, our 3-step strategy. So, all right, it saves you. So going back to, oops, and this should be a 4 and a 5. Sorry, guys. Okay, so anyway, going back into the pay down benefits, right? Because I got a little tangential there, if that's a word. I don't know, but I love it. All right, so we've got 4 here and we've got 5. Okay, so we already talked about the fact that you probably have one of the tools to do the pay down benefits for the pay down strategy. It doesn't usually cost you any additional money. It saves you from making more payments. Number 4, it returns money to your accounts via cash flow, okay? So learning velocity banking and learning the pay down method will actually have you getting cash flow back to you in the form of the payments that you were making. And this is such a cool feature of velocity banking, okay? So cash flow is king, you guys. Cash is no longer king, it is cash flow. And anybody that owns a business understands this. You guys need to be running your household like a business, and then it will make more sense to you as well. But cash flow is king, and that is what velocity banking does for you. Number 5, it is not complicated to learn. Again, I talked about things being overwhelming. Anytime you come into something new, right? It overwhelms you for a minute. But if you go back, if you peel back and you start from the beginning and you go back to the basics and you learn the 3 steps that we teach, then you will start to understand and start to make sense. All of the time, you guys, we get comments under our videos saying that this works, that they weren't sure if it was going to work for them, but it absolutely works, and people are getting really excited about it because whether you have a line of credit to work with or a credit card, it doesn't matter. You guys can work this strategy. So later today, I'm going to be running 2 strategies for you. I'm going to show you how to do it with a line of credit and how to do it with credit cards, and I'm going to make it very simple for you. I'm trying to make it unintimidating, let's put it that way, instead of overwhelming. All right, so Paydown's 3-step strategy is number 1, to organize. You're organizing your payments, your bills, your income, your expenses, your wealth, or your savings. You are going to identify. Identify section has 2 parts, an A and a B. Number 1, or A, I should say, you're going to pick your debt destroyer. What is a debt destroyer? It is the tool you are going to use to help work down your debts. It could be a credit card. It could be a line of credit, like a home equity line of credit or a personal line of credit. It could even be a business line of credit. But either way, we work with lines of credit, not loans, lines. Always a line, never a loan. And then B, choose your strategy. So there's different pay down strategies that we talk about. We talk about the maxed card strategy. We talk about the split card strategy. We talk about using a line of credit as a strategy, or just a simple credit card, using a credit card as your strategy, as your debt destroyer. What you're going to do is pick your debt destroyer, and I'm going to talk with you a little bit about that in just a minute, okay? All right, and then 3 is you're going to implement. You're going to begin to execute your strategy or your plan, okay? So that is the fun part. That is where you start to work down your debts. That is where you start to see month over month your balances drop and your interests decrease, and you start to see the savings as the months go by, okay? And now, months plural, yes, but not multiple months as in years upon years upon years, right? Because this cuts time, and time is money. All right, so you get that, right? You get the 3-step strategy. Sounds very simple, seems to be easy. Number 1, it's easy. I can do that. I can organize all my bills. I can organize all my debts, my bills, and I can organize my income. I've got this, right? This makes sense. I've got it. And if you need, we have worksheets for you that you can just email us. We'll email you the worksheets so you can figure out your own organization strategy, okay? Then 2, okay? 2, how do I choose, right? How do I choose that debt destroyer? Well, that's a very good question. How do you? What we teach is to go with your biggest payment. You want to go after the card, if it's a credit card, that has the biggest payment on it always, and use that as your debt destroyer. That is usually the first thing we do. Or you're going to be using a line of credit, okay? So it's either a brand new line of credit without balances on it, or a line of credit with balances that you can help work down your debts, which you'll start to see in a moment. So it could be a credit card, it could be a line of credit, and I'm going to work 2 for you to show you that, all right? So what we want to do is we want to reduce your overall interest that you would be spending, okay? That is our number 1 goal, is to get rid of all of that, that interest debt that you owe, because that is what the killer is. Yes, the payments are killing you, but so is that interest, because it's silent. It sneaks up on you and you don't even see it, okay? Most of the time, you guys don't even know what amount you're spending in interest. You have no idea. You don't know that interest debt. So I like to show it to you guys in every step along the way, okay? I love to do that. So anyway, so yes, you're always going to go after that biggest payment. So if it's a credit card, that's going to be your debt destroyer. Sometimes it's going to be the card that has the biggest available limit that you can use. Sometimes you'll do that. And as you get into looking at your finances, it's going to become apparent to you which one will make more sense as you learn how to run things, and as you learn how to see how much your savings is down the road, picking different strategies, okay? So you will do that, and that's part of the identify stage, and that is what we teach and what we help with, okay? All right, so picking that debt destroyer isn't hard. And then, of course, the third thing, people, you really don't usually have a problem with this. That is that beginning to execute their strategy and working it down. Sometimes they get hung up in the order of things and making sure that they're looking ahead to know what they have to pay. And so we do have videos to talk about that as well for you. All right, so without further ado, I am going to then erase this board for you, and I'm going to put up a strategy that we're going to run both as a line of credit and as a credit card, so you can see how, number 1, how velocity banking works, and number 2, the time savings that this creates for you. It alleviates that pressure and gets you on to wealth building. So give me a second here and I will have that up. Okay, and I'm back with some numbers for you. And again, remember, we are learning a new strategy, a new way to run your banking that you are not currently using. We are going to first start this with a line of credit. So here is my example here. Now, This is a hypothetical. It is some student numbers, okay? Some of their numbers that I pulled together for you just to give you, some balances and some time frames, but this is a hypothetical that I'm running for you today. Okay, so if we start with an income of $3,380, okay, so our income is $3,380, our total expenses is $3,300. That means that this person has a cash flow of $80, which isn't a whole lot, right? But at least they're positive, okay? At least they're positive, so we'll give them that. Their rent here is $1,380 a month, and they have a car payment for $416. Now, they have a personal line of credit here, and it's on the line is $3,680, and that payment is an interest-only payment at $40, okay? And so they're at 13.25%. They are at, it would take them 36 years, and it would cost $17,066 in order to pay this off at interest only. So obviously, you guys, you don't want to run interest only on things and have that be your plan, right? Your plan should be to pay it down, all right? So that's just pretty obvious here. And the limit on this is going to be $12,500. Now, they also have a Bank of America card out there for $3,800. It is an $80 payment, okay? And it is at 25%. It would take them 18 years at this payment to pay the $3,800 off, which means that they will pay $13,909 in interest to get this paid. All right. Now, this card is going to have a limit of $12,000, and we will use that in just a second. We also have a Synchrony card, okay? And there's a $1,300 balance on that. It is a $60 a month payment. It is 29%. It is at a 29%. It would take them 2.8 years to pay that back at $60, and it would cost them $563 in interest. Then our last card is our Discover Black. It is at a balance of $1,980, so $1,980. $62 is that payment monthly. It is at a 27% interest rate. It would take them 4.9 years, and it would cost them $1,552 in interest to pay that back. Now, as you can see, $1,552 isn't far from the original amount they borrowed now, is it? So you guys have to really look at what you're borrowing here. Look at this. $13,909, Bank of America, they have a $3,800 balance. If they're making that minimum payment of $80, this is where you guys get eaten alive, okay? And this is where those payments become detrimental to you if you are not paying extra. And when you have $80 a month cash flow, you're probably not paying extra, are you? Because there isn't a whole lot for you to work with. There are sometimes those what if moments, those oh shiznit moments that happen, right? As I like to say. And then you're out, right? You're out because you don't have any extra money. But not so when you run velocity banking, because what velocity banking does is when you're putting your income into a line of credit and running all of your expenses out, you are alleviating payments for yourself, and you are alleviating the pressure, okay? You now have cash flow to work with in the form of that card or that line of credit because you're putting your income into it monthly, paying it down faster, and dropping your interest. And because lines of credit are run as on an average daily balance, right? So every day they're calculated on the average of that card, okay? And that is what makes this special, so as well as putting your income in. But this strategy is beautiful when you know how to use it because the amount of savings is phenomenal. Okay, so here's our situation. Here is our first strategy. We are going to run it with that line of credit. Secondly, we will run it as a credit card, okay? Now, what happens is our total debts are $10,760. It would cost $33,090 in interest. This is what you guys don't know, and this is the problem. You don't realize how much you're paying in interest when you're making those minimum payments. Or if you do, you feel trapped because you don't know what to do about it. This is what you do about it, you guys. It's this and it's this over here, all right? So at $33,090, it's ridiculous. Like that's a ridiculous amount of money to pay, isn't it? That's probably somebody's salary, right? So we're not going to do that anymore. What we're going to do instead is we're going to take our total balances of $10,760. We are going to put these payments here, okay, into this line of credit, not payments, these balances into this line of credit because the limit is $12,500. So we put total now on this line of credit, we're going to have $10,760, which is this, right? So we are going to run this at the 13.25%, which is what that line of credit is at. So what happens is we put our income into this line of the 3380, our entire income, right? We no longer have these, right? We don't have this payment of $80. We don't have this payment of $60. We don't have this payment of $62. And we don't have the payment of $40 anymore. And why? Why is that? Because when we put our income into this line of credit, we have satisfied any payment that would be due because our income's going in. Our income becomes the payment, right? And we're only required to pay 40. So now we've paid well above that. And so we get these all back to us, okay? So they all come back to us. Number one, these come back because they're all rolled in here. And number two, this comes back because we don't need it. We've already satisfied that payment. So 3380 goes in, which is our entire income. Whoa, Jen, whoa. We've got living expenses. We can't put all of our income in there. We can't do that. Yes, you can. Because when you have a line of credit, you can run the line of credit and pay all of your expenses out of it. Every last expense, including your rent and including your car. Because normally those are hooked to either a credit card or it's a card that acts to pull from the line, or it's connected to your checking account, okay? So all you're going to do is write checks for whatever you need to write, whatever bills you have, and voila, you're done, right? It's all going through that line of credit. So if you put your entire income into that line of credit, you're just writing checks out of it, or you're having auto debits come out of that checking account, and it's business as usual, okay? It's just reorganized for you. And that's the beauty of this. So now 10,760 minus the 3380, your entire income, right? Drops us to 7380, okay? Look at the big drop here, all right? That's a big drop. So therefore, our interest is going to be lower each month as we do this, okay? And then we have to calculate our expenses. Well, our expenses are 3,058. But how did I get that when I said our total expenses here was 3,380? Well, remember, we're subtracting off each one of these, right? So let me grab my calculator and we'll just prove it to you. Okay, so if we have 3,300 minus our 40, minus our 80, minus our 60, minus our 62 is 3,058, right? So the 3,058, because remember, these we don't have to pay anymore. They're not, we don't owe them anymore, right? We don't owe them out of our paycheck, let's put it that way. So we then have to add back in to the 7380 our expenses, correct? Correct. But we have to add our month's worth of interest too, because there's interest on this line of credit. So in order to figure that out, what I have to do is I know that it's at 13.25%. Well, I'm going to take my high balance of 10,760. I'm going to add it to my low balance for the month of 7380, and it equals 18,140. I'm going to divide that by 2 to get my average 9,070. And I'm going to take the average then, and I'm going to multiply it by my 0.1325, which is my interest rate, which means for the entire year, my interest is 1,201. And then I divide that by 12 to get my $100. Now, the reason I'm dividing it by 12 is I don't need a year's worth of interest. I only need the first month because I know I'm going to continue to drop this. If it sat at this this average balance, then that would be my monthly amount that I would owe. But I'm not going to do that. I'm going to keep paying it down. So my $100 goes in, right? So that that brings my balance back up to 10,538. Okay. So high balance, low balance, end balance. My end balance, is it higher or lower than what I started with? Well, it's lower. So my strategy is working. If this number is going up, then whatever you're doing isn't right. So that's how you check yourself to figure out if you're doing this correctly. So when we run this down, okay, and we continue to run this strategy, and I should have covered this up for you, but I forgot to. So that means it takes us 29 months, so just a hair over 2 years, and we spend only $1,789 in interest versus $33,090. This is why we run with lines of credit. Our number one choice for debt destroyer is always probably going to be that personal line of credit or home equity line of credit or business line of credit, because They're lower interest rates and you can put all of your income in. Now, conversely, we're going to run this as a credit card and we're going to pretend for a moment that this is just a loan. I'm going to keep everything the same. I'm not going to change any dollar amounts. We're just going to run it as if it was a credit card that we're using, okay, which is going to be our Bank of America here with a limit of $12,000. Okay, so we're going to run this a different way through a credit card. So now things change here when it comes to credit cards. We have to work with what we call available income and chargeable expenses because not all things, bills, etc., can be charged through a credit card. The things you cannot charge through a credit card are loans, okay? So any loans you cannot charge through a credit card, and usually mortgage payment or rents. There are certain things you cannot charge through a credit card. So those have to be held out of both of our income and our total expenses, okay? Because they have to be held back into that checking account and paid through the checking account as opposed to put all of the income going onto the card. You can only put a portion of the income onto the card, but you're still going to run all of your chargeable expenses out of it, which is why we figure our chargeable expenses versus our available income, okay? So our available income that we're working with today is going to be the $3,380 minus the $1,380, right? Our rent, minus the $416, right? Which is our car payment, which leaves us with available $1,584 to put against our card or to make a payment onto our card. Our chargeable expenses in this case, we take the $3,300, right? We subtract off the $1,380, we subtract off the $416, but now we have to subtract off all of these because all of these are not chargeable expenses. We still owe them, okay, but they're not chargeable, all right? So when you subtract them all, we have 1,262 as chargeable expenses, okay? Chargeable expenses. Remember, we would have to hold out the rest. So now what happens is we then have a card here, which is our Bank of America card, and we are going to then, we have a limit of 12,000. We are going to roll these 3 cards into this Bank of America card. We're going to do what's called a balance transfer. You can do it through transferring them on, you can call and do a transfer that way, or you can get a convenience check and write yourself a check out for that dollar amount and then put it against the card, okay, which would essentially be paying off these 3 cards with that check, right? And then you put that money or put those debts onto that Bank of America card. So here's what you have to do, right? Because we know that it's going to cost us there's a balance transfer fee always, whether it's a convenience check or a balance transfer fee or a convenience check or a balance transfer fee, then it's going to be an interest charge on that. It's anywhere from 2 to 5%. I just split the difference and go 4. And so we're going to say that it costs us 4% to do all this, right? So I'm going to take my $3,680, which remember, we're pretending that's a loan. Our $3,680, we're going to take our $1,300, and we're going to take our $1,980. We're going to add them together. So that's where I'm getting the $6,960. Okay, the $6,960. Now, the balance transfer fee. So I have to multiply by 0.04, which gives me $278. That has to be added to our total, right? So that gives us the $1,138. Remember, our total was $10,760. But now we have to add the 278, so 1138. So 1138 is what we're working with. Now, this starts our pay down, right? $11,038. We put our income of $1,584 in, drops us to $94.54. Then our expenses have to come back out. Remember, these are chargeable expenses. Usually our living expenses, gas, groceries, utilities, all of that, okay? So those are our chargeable expenses. We have to figure our interest rate. Now we know that our card is at 25%, okay? So we have to figure this at 25%. So we're gonna take the 1138, right? So 11,038, we're gonna add the 94.54, which gives us 24.92. We're going to divide that by 2, which equals 10,246. Then we're gonna multiply by 0.25, which gives us 2561 the entire year. Then we divide that by 12, which gives us our 213. So that's how you calculate your interest. And you have to do that monthly. to run down the full strategy to find out what your savings is, right? So now we're down to 94.54. We add in our expenses, we add in our interest. It brings us back up to 10,928. I'm sorry, 10,929. Is this lower or higher than this that we started from? Well, it's lower, so our strategy is working. We do it the next month, right? We're going to put in our income. We're going to drop us to 93.45. Our expenses come out. Our interest comes out. Takes us to 10,818. Is this lower or higher than this? Well, it's lower. It's working. Our strategy is working. So whether it's a line of credit or whether it's a credit card, you guys can do this, okay, and successfully do this. Now, what does that mean at the end of the day? Well, it means this. It means it's going to take you 51 months and it's going to cost you $6,673 in interest. 51 months is 4.25 years, which is still less than this, it's more than this, less than this, and less than this, the 36 years, right? Now, again, remember this though. Yes, it's more, right? Where am I? Right here. The 6673 is more, right? It's much more than this. But again, you're not being able to put all of your income in, right? And that is what makes the lines of credit more powerful. Plus, they usually have a less amount, their interest rates are less, okay? But my point is, it doesn't matter what that interest rate is, so long as you can overcome it. If you can overcome it, then you can run a strategy that will work for you. Now, if this ran at 29%, let's say, okay, if it was at 29%, and I have that for you guys because I ran it, it would cost you, I lost my paper. Anyway, it's like $9,100 in interest at 29%. So it's more, and the time frame is 59 months. So it's, 8 months more. But here's the thing. Even so, at 29%, okay, and if it's, $8,000 or $9,000, you're still better off than you are at $33,000 in interest, right? So yes, of course you want the lowest interest rate, but if you're stuck and if you don't have a low interest rate and you have to run it at that higher interest rate, it will still work for you. I hope you guys have learned something today. I am glad to be back and at it again, helping you guys through your velocity banking strategies. Have an amazing day, and we will see you in the next video.